Part 1. Introduction. The $1,000 Seed and Solomon's Wisdom. In a world captivated by the allure of instant riches, many believe that building substantial wealth requires an already massive fortune, an elite network, or perhaps a stroke of impossible luck. The prevailing cultural narrative often suggests that if you don't start with millions or stumble upon a game-changing opportunity, true financial freedom remains an unattainable dream. Yet, this mindset is a profound deviation from a divine blueprint, a spiritual and economic principle that has unlocked extraordinary abundance for millennia. Today, we are going to challenge this common misconception and unveil a profound truth. Sometimes, the most magnificent harvests begin with a surprisingly humble seed. We begin our exploration with a concept we call the $1,000 seed. Now, you might be thinking, what can $1,000 truly achieve in today's economy? Or perhaps, I don't even have $1,000 to spare right now. These are valid concerns, born of a scarcity mindset that we're about to dismantle. The $1,000 figure is not a rigid requirement, but a powerful example, an accessible starting point to illustrate a transformative principle. It represents an intentional, manageable seed that, when planted correctly and nurtured with faith and wisdom, can initiate a cascade of multiplication that defies conventional understanding. This isn't about mere arithmetic. It's about activating a divine formula for exponential growth, what we refer to as God's 100x formula. To truly grasp this concept, we must turn our gaze to one of the most iconic figures of biblical wealth and wisdom, King Solomon. Solomon's story is a foundational narrative in understanding how small, intentional acts of planting can unlock extraordinary abundance. His journey to unparalleled prosperity did not begin with a vast inheritance he squandered, nor did it commence with cunning business deals. It began with an act of profound, sacrificial planting. The book of 1 Kings, in its 3rd chapter, verses 4 through 9, recounts this pivotal moment. Solomon traveled to Gibeon, the most important high place, and there he offered 1,000 burnt offerings upon the altar. 1,000 offerings. This was an immense act of generosity and devotion, especially for a newly crowned king. It was his seed, sown into the most fertile ground imaginable, the heart of God. And what was the result of this extraordinary act of planting? That very night, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and asked him, "Ask, what shall I give you?" Solomon, instead of asking for long life, riches, or the lives of his enemies, asked for an understanding heart to judge God's people and to discern between good and evil. In essence, he asked for wisdom. The Lord was pleased with Solomon's request. Because he did not ask for personal gain but for the ability to serve, God granted his request for wisdom. But more than that, as recorded in 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 11 through 13, God added, "Because you have asked this thing, and have not asked for yourself long life, nor riches for yourself, nor have asked the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern justice, behold, I have done according to your words. See, I have given you a wise and understanding heart, so that there has not been anyone like you before you, nor shall any like you arise after you. And I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be anyone like you among the kings all your days." Solomon's 1,000 offerings were not just a ritual. They were a significant financial seed planted in faith. In response to his wise request, rooted in that initial act of extravagant giving, God didn't just return his investment, he multiplied it exponentially, showering Solomon with unimaginable riches and honor, making him the wealthiest and wisest man who ever lived. This is the 100x formula in action, a powerful, disproportionate return on an intentional, faith-filled seed. This powerful biblical precedent stands in sharp contrast to the quick money mindsets that dominate our culture today. We are bombarded with messages promoting instant gratification, speculative risks, and shortcuts to wealth, schemes that often lead to disappointment, debt, and despair. Divine blueprints, however, offer a different path, one of patience, principle, and supernatural partnership. It is a path that values intentional planting, faithful stewardship, and ultimately bountiful harvesting. Throughout this video series, we will delve into these divine blueprints. We will unpack the essential principles that govern God's economy, demonstrating how you can transform even a seemingly small amount, like our example of $1,000, into a powerful seed for significant multiplication. We will explore how to identify your unique seeds, how to choose fertile ground for planting, and how to cultivate your harvest with diligence and faith. Prepare to shift your perspective on wealth, to unlock the power of God's 100x formula, and to embark on a journey towards true, lasting financial freedom and impact. Part 2. The $1,000 Test. Why small seeds birth great harvests. In our introduction, we saw how King Solomon's 1,000 burnt offerings, a significant but specific act of giving, unlocked an unimaginable harvest of wisdom, riches, and honor. Now, let's dive deeper into the profound biblical truth that small seeds, like our conceptual $1,000, are not insignificant. In fact, they are often the very starting point for God's greatest harvests, serving as a crucial test of our stewardship. Consider the words of Jesus himself recorded in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 13, verses 31 and 32. Here Jesus shares a profound parable. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all the seeds. But when it is grown, it is greater than the herbs, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and nest in its branches." This parable, though seemingly simple, carries immense weight for our understanding of financial multiplication. The mustard seed at that time was proverbially known as the smallest of all seeds. Yet with proper planting and nurturing, it grows into a surprisingly large plant, even a tree capable of sheltering birds. The parallel for our discussion is striking. What seems small and insignificant in your hand, like $1,000 or even less, holds the potential for exponential growth and far-reaching influence when placed in the right environment and under God's blessing. The mustard seed illustrates a critical principle. God often tests our faithfulness in the small things before entrusting us with much larger responsibilities and greater abundance. This is not merely about accumulating wealth. It's about developing character, trust, and good stewardship habits. The book of Luke, in its 16th chapter, verse 10, puts it plainly. "He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much, and he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much." This means that your current ability to wisely manage $1,000 or $100 or even $10 is a direct indicator of your readiness for managing $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million. Wealth, from a divine perspective, does not begin with an already full abundance. It begins with the wise and faithful handling of what is currently in your hand, no matter how humble it seems. Many yearn for a great harvest, but neglect the small seed. They dream of vast enterprises, but fail to steward the initial idea or the modest capital. God is observing how we handle the least of all seeds in our lives.
This brings us to a crucial distinction that often goes unaddressed in financial discussions: the difference between consuming money, bread, and planting it, seed. Bread is for immediate consumption. It fulfills present needs, satisfies hunger, and is quickly used up. This represents the money we use for daily living expenses, our bills, groceries, housing, and other necessities. There is nothing wrong with using money for bread. It is essential for survival. Seed, however, is money that is set aside, intentionally deployed, and entrusted for future multiplication. It is a portion of your resources that you are willing to release, with faith, expecting a return. It requires patience and a willingness to delay gratification. The $1,000 test, then, is not just about a specific amount. It is a spiritual test of our stewardship. Are we willing to discern a portion of our income as seed? Are we faithful in managing that seed wisely, even when it feels small or when immediate desires tempt us to consume it? Are we trusting God to take our seemingly small seed and, like the mustard seed, grow it into something far greater than we could ever imagine? Embracing this principle means cultivating a seed mentality, always looking for opportunities to plant, knowing that every act of faithful stewardship, no matter how small, has the potential for a miraculous harvest. This is how ordinary people with ordinary starting points unlock extraordinary financial freedom and become channels of God's abundance.
Part 3. Solomon's Principle of Wisdom Before Wealth. Knowledge first, money second. In our previous discussion, we marveled at how Solomon's 1,000 burnt offerings, a seed of sacrificial giving, opened the door for God to ask him, "What shall I give you?" This moment, pivotal in biblical history, reveals a profound principle often overlooked in the pursuit of wealth: the critical importance of wisdom before riches. Solomon's response to God's unparalleled offer sets a divine precedent for how lasting, purposeful wealth is truly built. The book of 1 Kings, in its 3rd chapter, verses 11 and 12, records God's response to Solomon's selfless request. And the Lord said to him, "Because you have asked this thing, and have not asked for yourself long life, nor riches for yourself, nor have asked the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern justice, behold, I have done according to your words. See, I have given you a wise and understanding heart, so that there has not been anyone like you before you, nor shall any like you arise after you." Notice the divine order here. Solomon asked for wisdom, and God not only granted that request, but added riches and honor as a bonus. This establishes a fundamental truth. Knowledge, specifically divine wisdom, is the foundational prerequisite for true, lasting, and impactful wealth. Money without wisdom is a fleeting vapor. It is easily acquired and just as easily lost. But wisdom, as the book of Proverbs so often teaches, is more precious than rubies and outlasts any earthly treasure. So, how does wisdom guide our decisions and form the bedrock of lasting wealth? Firstly, wisdom guides decisions with foresight and discernment. In the realm of finances and business, wisdom provides clarity amidst complexity. It enables you to differentiate between a fleeting trend and a sustainable opportunity. It helps you understand market dynamics, assess risks accurately, and identify true value. A wise person does not jump into investments impulsively, but researches thoroughly, seeks counsel from trusted advisors, and prays for divine guidance. They consider the long-term implications of their choices, not just the immediate gratification. This means making prudent spending choices, not succumbing to consumerism, and understanding the power of delayed gratification for greater future gain. Secondly, wisdom protects against folly and common financial pitfalls. Many who acquire wealth quickly, whether through inheritance, a lucky break, or even diligent effort, often lose it just as fast. Why? Because they lack the wisdom to manage it. Wisdom acts as a protective shield against the myriad of temptations and errors that can erode wealth. Impulsive spending. Wisdom resists the urge to buy every shiny new object. Poor investments.
Wisdom avoids get-rich-quick schemes and speculative ventures built on hype rather than solid fundamentals. Greed and unethical practices. Wisdom understands that true prosperity is built on integrity, not on exploiting others or cutting corners. Lack of discipline. Wisdom cultivates patience and consistency, understanding that true growth is often incremental and requires sustained effort. The book of Proverbs, in its 10th chapter, verse 4, reminds us, "He who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich." This diligence is born of wisdom. Finally, wisdom makes money stay, multiply, and serve a greater purpose. This is the essence of the 100x formula. When wisdom is applied, money is not merely accumulated, it is stewarded, staying. Wisdom ensures that wealth is not squandered, but preserved through careful planning, saving, and avoiding unnecessary debt. Multiplying. Wisdom identifies fertile ground for reinvestment, recognizing that money is a seed meant to be planted for a harvest, not merely consumed. It guides us in identifying true value in assets, businesses, or opportunities that align with ethical principles and offer sustainable growth. More importantly, wisdom elevates wealth beyond personal gain. It inspires generosity, philanthropic giving, and strategic investment into endeavors that advance God's kingdom and bless humanity. Solomon's initial desire for an understanding heart was for the purpose of serving God's people. This wisdom led to his wealth being used for magnificent projects like the building of the temple and the establishment of a just and prosperous kingdom. His wealth had a divine purpose. Therefore, before chasing dollars, chase wisdom. Cultivate a learner's spirit. Immerse yourself in God's word. Seek wise counsel and pray for discernment. For it is this divine wisdom that will not only attract wealth to your life, but also equip you to manage it, multiply it, and deploy it for enduring impact, ensuring that your financial journey reflects God's design for true, lasting prosperity. This is the foundation upon which your 100x formula will truly flourish.
Part 4. From money to business, turning seeds into systems that multiply. Having established that wisdom is the bedrock upon which lasting wealth is built, we now shift our focus to the dynamic process of putting that wisdom into action. It is one thing to possess a seed, and another to possess the wisdom to know what to do with it. But true multiplication only occurs when that seed is actively planted and developed. This segment is about understanding how to transform static money, your $1,000 seed, or any amount, into dynamic business systems that multiply, echoing Solomon's profound mastery of trade and resource multiplication. The truth is, money that simply sits still, whether in a bank account earning minimal interest or hidden under a mattress, is not truly growing. In fact, due to inflation, its purchasing power diminishes over time. To genuinely experience God's 100x formula, we must move beyond merely saving money to actively putting our money to work, transforming it from inert capital into a living, breathing engine of multiplication. This is where the world of business and intentional value creation comes into play. Consider King Solomon once more. His immense wealth was not solely a result of God's direct giving, but also a consequence of his wise application of that blessing. The book of 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles detail his extensive commercial ventures. He established trade routes, built a formidable merchant fleet, engaged in large-scale mining operations, and developed an intricate system of taxation and tribute. Solomon understood that wealth was a dynamic resource meant to be invested, traded, and systematized to generate more wealth. He didn't just hoard gold, he created the systems that consistently brought more gold into his kingdom. This provides us with a powerful blueprint to turn your seed into systems that multiply. This involves several key principles. Firstly, launching small ventures. You don't need millions to start. Your $1,000 seed, or even less, can be the initial capital for a micro-enterprise. This could mean purchasing inventory to sell online, investing in a specialized skill that allows you to offer a valuable service,
or funding the initial steps of a local business idea. The key is to take action, to move from an idea to a tangible endeavor. These small ventures are your mustard seeds in the business world. They may seem insignificant at first, but they hold the potential for remarkable growth. Proverbs, in its 21st chapter, verse 5, wisely states, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty." Diligence in starting small and growing systematically is far more effective than chasing grand, ill-conceived schemes. Secondly, diversifying income streams. Just as Solomon developed multiple avenues of wealth generation, wisdom dictates that we should not rely on a single source of income. Putting all your financial eggs in one basket leaves you vulnerable. Diversifying means exploring different ways your skills, time, or capital can generate revenue. This could be through a primary job augmented by a side hustle, investments in different asset classes, or developing multiple product lines within a business. Each additional stream becomes another system for multiplication, providing stability and enhancing your overall growth potential. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, adding value. True and sustainable wealth is always built upon the foundation of adding value to others. Whether you are selling a product, offering a service, or developing an innovative solution, your income is directly proportional to the perceived value you provide. This moves beyond merely making money to engaging in purposeful creation. What problems can you solve? What needs can you meet? How can you serve your community or your target market more effectively than anyone else? This focus on value creation ensures that your business endeavors are ethical, sustainable, and truly blessed by God, who delights in those who serve others. This contrasts sharply with speculative ventures that often seek to extract value without contributing anything meaningful. Finally, outpacing inflation. As mentioned earlier, static money loses value over time. Launching ventures and diversifying streams are active strategies to ensure your wealth not only retains its value, but grows beyond the rate of inflation. Your money, invested wisely in a business that adds value, can generate returns far exceeding what any savings account can offer, thus preserving and amplifying your purchasing power and your ability to impact the world. To move from a seed to a system requires intentionality, courage, and a commitment to stewardship. It means seeing your money not as something to hoard or merely spend, but as a dynamic resource, a talent entrusted to you, meant to be multiplied for God's glory and for the benefit of humanity. So, take that $1,000 seed, or whatever amount you have, and ask God for wisdom on how to plant it, nurture it, and build systems around it that will bring forth a multiplied harvest. This is how you begin to truly activate the 100x formula in your financial life.
Part 5. The Law of Diligence and Patience, how time protects and multiplies your money. We have explored how to transform your money from a static seed into dynamic business systems. But even the most perfectly planted seed in the most fertile ground will yield no harvest if it is not given the essential ingredients of time, consistent effort, and patient expectation. This brings us to a fundamental principle of God's economy, eloquently articulated by King Solomon, the profound law of diligence and patience. This law not only protects your investments from impulsive decisions, but also acts as a powerful catalyst, allowing your money to multiply in silence, building true wealth with spiritual resilience. Solomon, in the book of Proverbs, in its 21st chapter, verse 5, offers this timeless wisdom. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty. This verse encapsulates the entire essence of this segment. It clearly distinguishes between two paths to financial outcomes: the path of the diligent, which leads to abundance, and the path of the hasty, which leads to poverty. Let's unpack what it means for money to grow in silence when given time. Imagine a farmer planting a tiny seed. Once it's in the ground, he doesn't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. He knows that the most crucial, foundational growth happens beneath the surface, unseen and in silence. He trusts the process, the natural laws of growth, and the divine design. Similarly, true wealth often accumulates quietly, patiently, and without fanfare. It is not always about dramatic overnight successes that grab headlines, but about consistent, incremental growth that compounds over years and decades. This quiet growth is the result of diligence, which is far more than just working hard. Diligence, in a biblical sense, is consistent, purposeful, and sustained effort applied over time. It means consistent effort, regularly tending to your business, faithfully managing your investments, continually learning and improving your skills. It's showing up day after day, week after week, even when results aren't immediately apparent. Persistent learning, staying informed, adapting to market changes, and refining your strategies. Diligence means being a perpetual student of your craft and your finances. Faithful stewardship, actively monitoring your budget, reinvesting profits wisely, and making sound financial decisions that align with your long-term vision and God's principles. It is the opposite of sporadic effort or giving up too soon when obstacles arise. Without diligence, even the most promising seed or business idea can wither. The hasty person seeking instant gratification will chase every new trend, abandon ventures at the first sign of difficulty, and make impulsive decisions that undermine long-term growth. Their plans may seem exciting, but they lack the sustained effort to see them through to abundance. Hand in hand with diligence is patience. Patience is the spiritual resilience that protects your investments and your financial journey from the destructive forces of impulsivity and fear. Protection from impulsive decisions. In the investment world, hasty decisions often lead to losses. Panic selling during market downturns or buying into a speculative bubble fueled by hype are common pitfalls for those who lack patience. Wisdom dictates that true value is often realized over the long haul. A patient investor understands that market fluctuations are normal, and that giving an investment time to mature is often the key to unlocking its full potential. The power of compounding. Patience allows the miracle of compounding to work its magic. Small, consistent returns, when given enough time, can grow into astonishing sums. Albert Einstein reportedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. This mathematical reality is a testament to the power of patience over time. Trusting God's timing. For the believer, patience is also an act of faith. It's trusting that God, who oversees the harvest, knows the perfect timing for your breakthrough. The book of Ecclesiastes, in its 11th chapter, verse 6, advises, "In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not withhold your hand. For you do not know which will prosper, either this or that, or whether both alike will be good." This speaks to consistent effort without knowing the exact outcome, but trusting in the process in the Lord. Building wealth with spiritual resilience means recognizing that the journey will have its challenges, setbacks, and seasons of waiting. It means learning from mistakes without being defeated, adapting to unforeseen circumstances, and maintaining a steadfast belief in God's promises, even when the visible evidence is scant. The book of Galatians, in its 6th chapter, verse 9, encourages us, "And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap, if we do not lose heart." This principle applies powerfully to our financial endeavors. Therefore, as you transform your $1,000 seed into dynamic business systems, remember Solomon's secret: embrace diligence and cultivate patience. Allow time to be your ally, protecting your efforts from haste and allowing your financial seeds to multiply in silence. This consistent, resilient approach is not merely a good business strategy, it is a spiritual discipline that aligns with God's design for lasting abundance and impact.
Part 6. Diversification God's Way. Why Solomon Spread Risk and Built Prosperity. In our journey to understand the 100x formula, we have emphasized transforming static money into dynamic business systems, grounded in wisdom, diligence, and patience. Now we turn our attention to another crucial principle of lasting wealth, a principle Solomon himself understood and articulated with profound clarity: diversification God's way. This isn't just a modern financial strategy. It is an ancient, divinely inspired blueprint for wealth protection and sustainable prosperity. Solomon, in the book of Ecclesiastes, in its 11th chapter, verse 2, provides a direct instruction: give a portion to 7, and also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth. This verse, though concise, is packed with wisdom for anyone seeking to build and protect wealth. What Solomon is essentially advising here is to spread your investments, to not put all your resources into a single venture. He recognizes the inherent uncertainties of life, the evil that will be on the earth, and provides a practical strategy to mitigate risk. Let's break down how this principle of diversification works, both financially and spiritually. Firstly, diversifying investments across multiple ventures and income streams secures stability against uncertainties. Imagine a farmer who plants his entire harvest in just one field. If a blight strikes that specific field or a flood washes it away, his entire livelihood is lost. However, if he plants in several different fields, perhaps with different types of crops across varied terrains, the risk of total loss is significantly reduced. If one field fails, others may still thrive. In the modern context, this translates to multiple business ventures. Instead of relying solely on one business, explore starting or investing in a few different, perhaps complementary ventures. If one faces an unexpected downturn, the others can provide stability. Diversified investments, beyond traditional businesses, this means not putting all your investment capital into a single stock, a single industry, or even a single asset class. It involves spreading your capital across various investment vehicles, such as real estate, different market sectors, bonds, or even precious metals, according to your risk tolerance and financial goals. Varied income sources. In addition to your primary occupation, cultivating additional income streams, whether through a side hustle, rental properties, or passive income investments, provides a crucial buffer against job loss or economic shifts. This approach acknowledges the reality that the future is unpredictable. Economic downturns, technological disruptions, shifts in consumer preferences, or even personal setbacks can impact any single venture. Diversification is a proactive measure of prudence and wisdom, safeguarding your financial well-being by ensuring that if one area experiences difficulty, others can sustain you. Secondly, diversification fosters a deeper trust in God's providence while requiring diligent stewardship. While Solomon advises spreading risk, it's not an excuse for reckless behavior or investing in everything without discernment. The 7 and also to 8 implies thoughtful, intentional choices, not haphazard scattering. Each portion should still be an act of wise planting, rooted in research, prayer, and diligent execution. Spiritually, diversification reflects an understanding that while we are called to be wise stewards, we are not ultimately in control. The evil that will be on the earth refers to unforeseen circumstances, external forces beyond our influence. By diversifying, we acknowledge our limitations and humble ourselves, recognizing that ultimate security comes from God, not from a single perfectly performing investment. It encourages us to pray for all our ventures, trusting Him to bless our diligent efforts across the board. Furthermore, diversification can protect against the temptation of greed. When all one's hope for wealth is tied to a single high-risk venture, the pressure to succeed can lead to unethical decisions or an unhealthy obsession. By spreading resources, there is a sense of calm and a reduced emotional attachment to any single outcome, allowing for more objective and principled decision-making. In essence, Solomon's counsel in Ecclesiastes 11, verse 2, is a blueprint for building prosperity with resilience. It teaches us to be pragmatic about risk, proactive in our planning, and humble in our reliance on divine providence. As you develop your $1,000 seed into multiplying systems, remember the wisdom of diversification. Don't place all your eggs in one basket. Intentionally spread your financial efforts, and you will build a more stable, secure, and resilient foundation for lasting abundance, a foundation that can withstand the inevitable storms of life and continue to yield a harvest for years to come.
Part 7. The spiritual dimension of wealth, aligning money with purpose and eternal values. We have journeyed through practical strategies for building and protecting wealth, from the power of a small seed to the wisdom of diversification. Now it is time to elevate our perspective to the highest dimension of wealth, its spiritual purpose. Without this final understanding, all the wisdom, diligence, and multiplication strategies will ultimately fall short of true fulfillment. King Solomon, the wealthiest man who ever lived, provides us with the ultimate insight into this truth. In the book of Ecclesiastes, in its 5th chapter, verse 10, Solomon, speaking from the unparalleled experience of immense riches, declares, "He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity." These words are a profound reality check. Solomon, who literally had it all, gold, palaces, vast lands, knowledge, and power, concluded that money in and of itself cannot provide lasting satisfaction or ultimate purpose. To pursue wealth for its own sake, to love money more than God or people, is to chase after vanity, a fleeting illusion that leaves the heart empty. This brings us to the core of the spiritual dimension of wealth, aligning money with a higher purpose. When our financial resources are tethered to God's glory, the well-being of people, and the advancement of His kingdom projects, money transcends its earthly limitations and takes on eternal significance. It transforms from mere currency into a powerful tool for divine impact. Let's explore how this alignment works. Firstly, wealth for God's glory. This is the ultimate purpose. Our resources, our talents, and our time are ultimately gifts from God. When we acknowledge this, our desire shifts from accumulating for self-aggrandizement to stewarding for His praise. This means using wealth to support ministries, fund evangelistic endeavors, build churches, or simply conduct our businesses with such integrity and excellence that it brings honor to His name. It means being known not just for our wealth, but for our generosity and our Christ-like character in handling it. Secondly, wealth for the well-being of people. God has a heart for the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized. True Spirit-led wealth creation is often accompanied by a desire to alleviate suffering, provide opportunities, and empower others. This can manifest in countless ways, creating jobs through a thriving business, supporting charities that feed the hungry or shelter the homeless, investing in education, or simply being a blessing to individuals in need within your community. When money is used to genuinely improve lives, it becomes a conduit of God's love and compassion. The book of Proverbs in its 28th chapter, verse 27 reminds us, "He who gives to the poor will not lack, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses." Thirdly, wealth for kingdom projects. The kingdom of God is continually expanding on earth. Financial resources are often essential for advancing its cause, whether it's supporting missionaries, translating Bibles, launching Christian media, or funding initiatives that bring about societal transformation based on biblical values. When we consciously direct our wealth towards these eternal endeavors, our money becomes invested in something that outlasts our earthly existence. It's a divine partnership where our financial seeds yield not just earthly harvests, but eternal returns. This profound shift in perspective also reframes our understanding of financial loss and embraces true stewardship. Reframing loss. When our focus is on eternal impact rather than mere accumulation, temporary financial setbacks or losses become less devastating.
we understand that our true treasure is not in bank accounts but in heaven. Matthew chapter 6, verse 19. This perspective provides a resilience that goes beyond financial metrics. It allows us to learn from losses, forgive ourselves, and continue to serve God faithfully, knowing that His plans are bigger than any market fluctuation. Embracing stewardship. This spiritual dimension moves us beyond ownership to stewardship. We recognize that we are not ultimate owners of our wealth, but managers entrusted with God's resources. This liberates us from the anxiety of holding on to money too tightly and empowers us to give generously and invest strategically for kingdom purposes. It fosters a heart of gratitude and responsibility, knowing that we will ultimately give an account for how we manage all that was placed in our care. The 100x formula, therefore, is not just about multiplying money. It is fundamentally about multiplying impact, multiplying blessing, and multiplying God's glory on earth. It's about taking the financial seeds God has entrusted to you and through wisdom, diligence, and diversification, growing them into a powerful force for eternal good. When your money is aligned with God's purpose, it ceases to be a source of potential vanity and instead becomes a wellspring of true joy, profound satisfaction, and everlasting significance. This is the ultimate harvest of the 100x formula.
Part 7. The spiritual dimension of wealth, aligning money with purpose and eternal values. We have journeyed through practical strategies for building and protecting wealth, from the power of a small seed to the wisdom of diversification. Now it is time to elevate our perspective to the highest dimension of wealth, its spiritual purpose. Without this final understanding, all the wisdom, diligence, and multiplication strategies will ultimately fall short of true fulfillment. King Solomon, the wealthiest man who ever lived, provides us with the ultimate insight into this truth. In the book of Ecclesiastes, in its 5th chapter, verse 10, Solomon, speaking from the unparalleled experience of immense riches, declares, "He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity." These words are a profound reality check. Solomon, who literally had it all, gold, palaces, vast lands, knowledge, and power, concluded that money, in and of itself, cannot provide lasting satisfaction or ultimate purpose. To pursue wealth for its own sake, to love money more than God or people, is to chase after vanity, a fleeting illusion that leaves the heart empty. This brings us to the core of the spiritual dimension of wealth, aligning money with a higher purpose. When our financial resources are tethered to God's glory, the well-being of people, and the advancement of His kingdom projects, money transcends its earthly limitations and takes on eternal significance. It transforms from mere currency into a powerful tool for divine impact. Let's explore how this alignment works. Firstly, wealth for God's glory. This is the ultimate purpose. Our resources, our talents, and our time are ultimately gifts from God. When we acknowledge this, our desire shifts from accumulating for self-aggrandizement to stewarding for His praise. This means using wealth to support ministries, fund evangelistic endeavors, build churches, or simply conduct our businesses with such integrity and excellence that it brings honor to His name. It means being known not just for our wealth, but for our generosity and our Christ-like character in handling it. Secondly, wealth for the well-being of people. God has a heart for the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized. True Spirit-led wealth creation is often accompanied by a desire to alleviate suffering, provide opportunities, and empower others. This can manifest in countless ways: creating jobs through a thriving business, supporting charities that feed the hungry or shelter the homeless, investing in education,
or simply being a blessing to individuals in need within your community. When money is used to genuinely improve lives, it becomes a conduit of God's love and compassion. The book of Proverbs, in its 28th chapter, verse 27, reminds us, "He who gives to the poor will not lack, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses." Thirdly, wealth for kingdom projects. The kingdom of God is continually expanding on earth. Financial resources are often essential for advancing its cause, whether it's supporting missionaries, translating Bibles, launching Christian media, or funding initiatives that bring about societal transformation based on biblical values. When we consciously direct our wealth towards these eternal endeavors, our money becomes invested in something that outlasts our earthly existence. It's a divine partnership where our financial seeds yield not just earthly harvests, but eternal returns. This profound shift in perspective also reframes our understanding of financial loss and embraces true stewardship. Reframing loss. When our focus is on eternal impact rather than mere accumulation, temporary financial setbacks or losses become less devastating. We understand that our true treasure is not in bank accounts, but in heaven. Matthew chapter 6, verse 19. This perspective provides a resilience that goes beyond financial metrics. It allows us to learn from losses, forgive ourselves, and continue to serve God faithfully, knowing that His plans are bigger than any market fluctuation. Embracing stewardship. This spiritual dimension moves us beyond ownership to stewardship. We recognize that we are not ultimate owners of our wealth, but managers entrusted with God's resources. This liberates us from the anxiety of holding on to money too tightly and empowers us to give generously and invest strategically for kingdom purposes. It fosters a heart of gratitude and responsibility, knowing that we will ultimately give an account for how we managed all that was placed in our care. The 100x formula, therefore, is not just about multiplying money. It is fundamentally about multiplying impact, multiplying blessing, and multiplying God's glory on earth. It's about taking the financial seeds God has entrusted to you and through wisdom, diligence, and diversification, growing them into a powerful force for eternal good. When your money is aligned with God's purpose, it ceases to be a source of potential vanity and instead becomes a wellspring of true joy, profound satisfaction, and everlasting significance. This is the ultimate harvest of the 100x formula.
Part 9. Your practical plan, turning principles into action. Having explored the profound spiritual and practical dimensions of wealth building, from the foundational wisdom of Solomon to the expansive vision of generational impact, we now arrive at the critical juncture, putting these timeless principles into tangible action. It is one thing to understand divine strategies. It is another to apply them. Your financial destiny is not shaped by wishes or mere contemplation, but by deliberate actions and wise choices guided by God's Word. Throughout this series, we have considered the concept of your initial $1,000 seed, a manageable starting point that symbolizes any amount of capital you are prepared to steward. Now, let's synthesize these principles into a clear, actionable plan for you. Firstly, begin with wisdom. Before you invest a single dollar or launch any venture, devote yourself to seeking divine wisdom. This is your true starting capital. Spend time in prayer, study the Scriptures, and seek godly counsel. Ask the Lord to illuminate your path, reveal opportunities, and equip you with the knowledge and discernment needed to steward your resources effectively. Remember, Proverbs, in its 3rd chapter, verses 13 through 15, tells us that wisdom is more precious than rubies and more profitable than fine gold. It is the ultimate foundation. Secondly,
Plant your seed with purpose. Identify a small venture where your $1,000 seed or your chosen starting capital can be strategically deployed. This is about moving from static money to dynamic business systems. Can you purchase inventory for an online store? Can you invest in tools or training to offer a specialized service? Can you fund the initial marketing for a local microbusiness? The key here is to create value. What problem can you solve? What need can you meet for others? This first step is often the hardest, but it is essential. Do not despise the day of small beginnings, for great things grow from humble seeds. Thirdly, nurture your endeavors with diligence and patience. Once your seed is planted, commit to consistent, purposeful effort over time. Diligence means showing up every day, learning, adapting, and refining your approach. Patience means trusting the process, understanding that true growth often occurs quietly and incrementally beneath the surface. Resist the temptation for quick riches or impulsive decisions. As Solomon reminds us in Proverbs, in its 21st chapter, verse 5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty. Allow time for the miracle of compounding to work its magic, both in your ventures and in your investments. Fourthly, protect your harvest through diversification. As your initial seed begins to yield, wisely spread your financial efforts across multiple ventures and income streams. Do not put all your financial eggs into one basket. This is God's blueprint for risk mitigation, as taught in Ecclesiastes in its 11th chapter, verse 2. Give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth. This strategy protects your wealth from unforeseen economic shifts, market fluctuations, or challenges to any single endeavor, ensuring greater stability and resilience for your growing financial base. Fifthly, align your wealth with eternal purpose. As your wealth grows, constantly ask yourself, how can these resources be used for God's glory, to bless people, and to advance His kingdom? Remember Solomon's conclusion in Ecclesiastes in its 5th chapter, verse 10, that money alone cannot satisfy. True fulfillment comes when your financial increase is channeled into matters of eternal significance, supporting ministries, aiding the poor, creating opportunities, and investing in kingdom projects. This spiritual alignment transforms earthly resources into heavenly treasure, providing a profound sense of purpose and joy that money alone can never buy. Finally, build a legacy that outlives you. Look beyond your immediate needs and even your own lifetime. Plan for generational wealth, not just in financial terms, but in the enduring inheritance of wisdom, discipline, and spiritual values. Establish structures and principles that can sustain your family's destiny for generations to come, empowering them to continue building for God's glory. As Proverbs in its 13th chapter, verse 22 states, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Your practical plan begins today. It starts with the very next choice you make. Will you let your $1,000 seed lie dormant, or will you prayerfully, diligently, and strategically plant it, nurture it, and grow it into a magnificent harvest for your well-being, for the blessing of others, and for the glory of God? The choice is yours. Embrace these principles, take action, and watch as God, through your faithful stewardship, unleashes His 100x formula in your life.
Part 10. Activation and Declaration. Claiming God's power to create wealth. We have journeyed together through the profound wisdom of King Solomon, unlocking the ancient yet ever-relevant principles of the 100x formula. We have seen how a small seed, infused with divine wisdom, diligence, patience, diversification, and eternal purpose, can multiply far beyond what we might imagine. But understanding these principles is only half the battle. The other equally crucial half is activation and declaration, a conscious decision to step into God's design for your financial life and claim His power to create wealth for His glory.
This final segment is not merely a summary, it is an invitation to shift your mindset from one of scarcity or mere survival to one of abundant possibility and purposeful stewardship. It's an invitation to move from passive listening to active engagement, to declare your commitment to stewarding your money not just for personal gain, but for God's greater purposes, for the blessing of humanity, and for the advancement of His kingdom on earth. For too long, many believers have approached the topic of wealth with trepidation, perhaps feeling it is unspiritual or reserved for a select few, but the Scriptures clearly state otherwise. The book of Deuteronomy, in its 8th chapter, verse 18, declares with unmistakable clarity, "But you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant which He swore to your fathers, as it is this day." This is a powerful foundational truth. It is God Himself who empowers you to create wealth, not for selfish ambition, but to establish His covenant, to fulfill His purposes, and to be a conduit of His blessing in the world. This power is not limited to a select few. It is available to all who walk in obedience and seek His will. It is time to shake off any limiting beliefs, any sense of unworthiness, or any fear that has held you back from embracing your divine mandate as a financial steward. Now, let this be your moment of activation. This is where you consciously decide to apply the principles we've discussed. Take that initial $1,000 seed or whatever amount God has placed in your hand and begin to transform it. Here is your call to action, a declaration you can make right now. Declare your commitment to wisdom. Commit to seeking God's wisdom daily, allowing His Word and the Holy Spirit to guide every financial decision. Declare that you will make choices rooted in biblical truth, not worldly speculation. Declare your intent to plant and nurture. Declare that you will not let your resources lie dormant. You will prayerfully identify opportunities, plant your seeds of capital, and diligently nurture your ventures with consistent effort and unwavering patience. You will trust in the process of growth even when unseen. Declare your strategy of protection. Declare that you will wisely diversify your efforts, spreading your investments to protect against unforeseen challenges and secure stability for your financial future, just as Solomon advised in Ecclesiastes in its 11th chapter, verse 2. Declare your purpose for prosperity. Most importantly, declare that your ultimate aim in creating wealth is not self-enrichment, but to bring glory to God, to be a generous blessing to people, and to fuel kingdom projects around the world. Your money will serve a higher purpose, transforming into eternal impact. Remember Solomon's conclusion in Ecclesiastes, in its 5th chapter, verse 10, that money alone cannot satisfy. Declare your legacy vision. Declare your commitment to building generational wealth, an inheritance not just of financial assets, but of wisdom, godly values, and spiritual discipline that will empower your children's children to live out their divine destinies. As the book of Proverbs in its 13th chapter, verse 22 states, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." This is more than just making money. This is about fulfilling your calling as a steward in God's economy. It is about actively participating in His plan to establish His covenant through your financial endeavors. Trust the God who gave you the power to create wealth. Believe that as you step out in faith and apply these principles, He will honor your diligence and multiply your efforts. Embrace this legacy-building journey with courage, faith, and expectation. The 100x formula is not just a theory, it is a divine reality awaiting your activation. Will you join us in this journey? Will you declare today that you are ready to claim God's power to create wealth and steward it for His glory? The time is now. Let us move forward, empowered by His Word and His Spirit, to see our finances become a profound testimony to His goodness and His abundant provision.